It's now time for Party Chat Sports.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
Welcome in, everyone, to the first ever episode of Party Chat Sports. I'm Gill, and joined with me today is, well, we'll start with you, who is laughing in the background.
Go ahead.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Cameron Braun. I'm a big Vikings fan.
Yeah, we don't need to know that. We're moving on.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, I'm next. My name is Dillon Schroeder. Big Steelers guy. Go on.
I'm Drew Nelson. That's it.
Solid. And again, I'm Gill, big Jets fan. The four of us were very avid, very big NFL fans. And despite us all going to the same high school, we all ended up having four different teams. It's four guys in this chat, four different teams that we all cheer for, which makes the discussions between the four of us very interesting, which is why we're doing this podcast, trying to start this up. And again, they're interesting to say the least, these discussions are. And today's discussion on our inaugural episode is the four of us. We're just going to be discussing the first week or so of free agency. The legal tampering period in the NFL started about a week ago, a little less than a week ago, as we sit here recording on March 18th. And there's been a lot of moves that were made. So we're going to lead off discussing how we feel about our free agencies for our teams. And then we'll go into what we do and do not like about not just our teams. Then we'll move into the rest of the NFL, moves that we did and did not like. We'll wrap it up by discussing what we did not like. So what our teams did, what we did and do not like, what we did like, and then we'll wrap up with what we did not like there. So let's get rolling, Cam. How you feel about your Vikings this offseason?
Everyone buckle their seatbelts. Here we go.
Yeah, we're for a doozy.
I feel pretty good about the Vikings offseason so far. There is a lot of holes that still need to be filled, like the cornerback position. But we're going to start off with the cuts. First and foremost, Adam Thielen, Mr. Minnesota. He's been there forever. Can't take the 19.96 cap hit with him. That's why they cut him post June 2nd. Just can't do it. I love him. He's gonna do great things in the NFL, but just can't do it. He's top 5 receiver in Minnesota history. His cap. Stop!
That was about to get crazy.
Can that get cut?
Nah, keep it rolling. Keep it rolling.
We are genuine here.
Thielen holds a very. What's the word I'm looking? He just holds a very firm spot in Minnesota's heart. It's going to be sad to see him go. He could be back, never know. Eric Kendricks, another guy who's been there forever, drafted by Minnesota, one of the best linebackers up there with Chad Greenway, but his cap hit and his play has been very diminished. Can't do it anymore. And Asamoah is going to be his replacement, and there is Brian Asamoah.
Okay.
He is the same nationality as Kwesi, our general manager. Don't ask me what it is. I think it's Senegal. And then that leaves with Cam Dantzler and Irv Smith, guys that never lived up to their potential, injury prone. Sad to see him go. I loved him. Always had him in my Madden franchise, but you have to get over him. Anyways,
I want to cut you off just real quick, mentioning Adam Thielen. About 30 minutes before we hopped on here, Adam Thielen is finalizing a 3-year deal with the Carolina Panthers. So that's another free agency move that we got moving on. Sorry to cut you off. Keep going, Cam.
Which will help with their rookie quarterback, whether they decide to go with Richardson, Stroud, or Bryce Young.
What about Will Levis, bro? You dunking on Will Levis like that?
No, I'm ducking Will Levis.
Guys, we have all off-season to discuss trade stuff or draft stuff. Let's keep going on with free agency.
So my favorite acquisition of free agency, even though it's not a player, is Brian Flores. He's going to bring that nasty defense to Minnesota back. He's going to bring that Mike Zimmer defense back. with a little bit more intensity. He's going to bring the safeties up. Hopefully we're going to get some pass rush and not sit back and just let our 4 pass rushers go at him, and hopefully we're going to get some blitzes. Dylan, you will know more about that than me because Brian Flores was your linebacker coach.
Yeah, and he was also the assistant head coach too, I believe, to Mike Tomlin. But I can touch a little bit more on how that affects, what type of loss he really is, because it's a big one, no doubt. But yeah, he should be good DC for the Vikings. But continue, Cam.
And as a head coaching candidate, I am loving the fact that he came to Minnesota as a defensive coordinator. On to Davenport. I'm a fan of the signing, but I'm also not a fan of the signing because he had 0.5 sacks last year. I don't care how many pressures you get. Pressures are good as long as you have the other pieces, and with Z possibly leaving, that might hurt us. He's got 21.5 sacks in 5 seasons and 35 pressures the last 2 years, so he could be a good acquisition. Hopefully he pans out for the Vikings. The second one I am probably the most excited about is Josh Oliver. He's a 4-year guy. Not the greatest stats. He's been injury prone in Baltimore, but from what I've heard from Baltimore fans and their Twitter fandom, he is a fantastic run blocker, which is what Minnesota has struggled with the last couple of seasons. Yes, Dalvin Cook's numbers have been there, but when you think of Minnesota, you're thinking Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Kirk Cousins. You're not thinking Dalvin Cook unless it's a huge run play, but it's just not a great running scheme in Minnesota right now. So hopefully Josh Oliver at the tight end position can help this out with a 12 personnel, and that may open up some opportunities for Justin Jefferson. And the last acquisition I will talk about is Byron Murphy. He is a 4-year guy going on to his 5th year. We signed him for $11 million a year, 2 years, $22 million. He plays slot and outside, which I am a fan of because they have a very, very young cornerback core with Andrew Booth, Evans, and no one knows if they're bringing Duke Shelley back, who was a big acquisition for them last year. I don't like his stats as a number 1 cornerback. That's why I am very sad to hear that Patrick Peterson has went to the Steelers, which he will do great over there. He's lost a step, but he's still a dominant player. The other additions that they brought was Dean Lowry was a defensive end, but is more of a 3-tech and a 5-tech. He's just going to add some more beef to the offensive line. They brought back Madison, restructured Harrison Smith, which I am a huge fan of, and Vikings fandom is huge on him in the Brian Flores defense. Brought back Bradbury, which is a very small center. Hate him, but he improved last year. I don't know how he's going to go. We restructured Cousins also. I don't know what their plan with him is because they are talking about Lamar Jackson now, and I am a fan and also not a fan of that for JJ reasons. So I would like to see them go after Wagner to help Asamoah, Bobby Wagner, that is, to help Asamoah in his position, learning as a very, very young linebacker. I would like to bring Kyle Rudolph back if we possibly could to also help the tight end core. And Dylan's going to like this one. I would like to bring in Mason Rudolph as a backup quarterback and backup Cousins.
Whoa, man.
Yeah.
I hate that guy. I hate that guy.
I do not like Nick Mullins. I saw him on the field once against Green Bay last year, and he looked slow and a budget Kirk Cousins, and I was not a fan of that. It doesn't give me any hope for after Kirk Cousins because this is his last year. And I'm going to leave it off with going for McKinnon, DJ Chark, who has been in contact with Minnesota, but he's also being tied to Carolina right now. And the last 2 people I would love to go get is Ben Jones and CJ Gardner-Johnson. I don't know why he hasn't been signed to the Eagles yet.
I've been trying to figure that one out too.
But I need to know why he's not going back there. I don't know if it's a money issue, but to add more depth to that secondary, Gardner Johnson would be a huge acquisition to fill the void of Harrison Smith when and whenever he decides to retire.
So I think it is a
Mike,
money issue, if you don't mind me budging in here, because the safety market right now is very down. The safeties that have signed, like Jesse Bates, they've not been getting the money that many. Well, Jesse Bates has gotten a higher contract, but some of the other safeties haven't. So I think C.J. Gardner Johnson is just kind of waiting for a bigger contract.
yeah,
We'll
I
see.
would agree with that. Jesse Bates was 64 for 4 years, I believe.
Bates
I
has gotten a
remember
good
seeing that right.
contract. No, Bates was a bad mention on my part, but the other safeties so far that I've signed, their contracts just have not been to what many expected,
I
which is
agree.
kind of bringing down Gardner Johnson's number a little bit.
Do you guys want me to go into my top 3 signings and top 3 hated signings?
No, we're doing that segment. So we're all going to go over our teams, and then we'll do the NFL, what we do like, and then we'll all do NFL, what we don't like. So as we
Gotcha.
continue around this round table, Dylan, you're up.
All right. I'll get jumped in here. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, first full off season with brand new GM Omar Khan, assistant GM Andy Weidel, who came from the Philadelphia Eagles. So those two really starting to shape their version of what they want the Steelers to look like, and the version is filled with a bunch of nasty players that really want to get after it on the field. A couple of the signings, offensive guards, Nate Herbig and Isaac Seumalo. Nate Herbig, 2 years, $8 million for Nate Herbig and Isaac. Isaac Seumalo, I think that's how you say it. 3 years. Starter level money there for guard. And we'll see how they go, but two big guys that are road graders. They're in the interior of the O-line, an O-line that struggled with power early on last season, so we'll see how that goes. And then on the inside linebacker side, go ahead, Kane.
Regarding to your Eagles offensive guard, I have actually done some research on him today. They are talking about how he was the weak point of that Eagles offensive line, but also a big part of it, which didn't make sense to me, but knowing how good that Eagles offensive line is, that has some sense to it.
Yeah, no, I've seen some little film snippets of him, and he's a nasty run block. And we'll see on the pass blocking side of things, because I still think this team drafts tackle early, because Dan Moore Jr. on the left side was a problem, and you need to protect your young QB there, Kenny Pickett. So O-line definitely a big draftable spot here, but they've done a good job of filling in the interior and giving you some options. Five guys in the room now that could start at any of those or the 3 interior positions. So that's good. On the inside of things, names go out and names come in. So Robert Spillane, Miles Jack, Devin Bush, all out. And then
how do you feel about Devin Bush?
Sad, because I think when we drafted him, we traded up to number 10. I was pretty excited. Because, at that time, too, we were coming off of the Ryan Shazier injury and, love Ryan Shazier. I know you guys love him, too, Ohio State boy.
Madden goat.
Really sad to see what happened to him. And really, ever since he went down, the Steelers' defense has been stirring for his replacement. And it really left a giant hole in the middle of the defense. And so Devin Bush was supposed to be that guy that was athletic and could play like Shazier. And his rookie year, he had flashes. But then early on in his sophomore year, he tore that knee, and he was never the same since. Seemed hesitant to fill the hole, and it just got out with the first round pick. You got your 4 years out of him. It didn't quite work. So sad to see him go. Sad to see it didn't work out. But Cole Holcomb and Elandon Roberts, two dudes that literally go into the pile head first. I mean, just straight. Downhill linebackers that are going to maul on the inside. And they both ran 4.5 at the combine their respective years, and they're both young. So athletic dudes that are going to be able to flow sideline to sideline, get downhill, meet a guard, that's pulling. That's all great because Pittsburgh's run defense last season was questionable, to say the least. However, gonna be some issues in the passing game on defense because, Minka's great, but he can't cover the whole field. So we'll see, what the plan of attack is there if they draft a guy that's, really good in pass coverage. But Cole Holcomb, Elandon Roberts, and then the second-year guy, Mark Robinson, are three nasty dudes that are strong and fast and are going to meet some offensive linemen at the second level with a pop. So we'll see how that goes. Larry Ogunjobi re-signed him 3 years, $21 million. I think that's a little bit of an overpay, but with the defensive tackle tax that they've had to pay, I think putting themselves in a position where they were really thin at that position. A lot of the top guys in free agency got their bag. The price of defensive tackle was up, especially in a year where I think the defensive tackle draft class is pretty weak. So $21 million, 3 years for Larry O. I think he's a good player. I think he's inconsistent. He's had really high highs and some really low lows, and he battled some injury last year too. So we'll see. Hopefully that works out. And then Patrick Peterson, like Cameron mentioned, I really like the signing. You lose Cam Sutton, which sucked. I really would have liked to see Cam Sutton come back. Maybe not at $11 million a year like the Lions gave him. I don't know. It's a kind of a give and take. But Patrick Peterson, a guy that, at his day, he was a top 3 corner. He was locking down whatever side of the field he was on. But, lost a step. So we'll see. I know late in the year last year, he was pretty much the boundary corner for the Vikings. He would only play on the small side of the field. Correct. Which kind of worries me. Were they hiding something? Were they giving him less space to cover? Maybe. So we'll see. We've had guys like this before. Joe Hayden came in, went late in his career, revived it in Pittsburgh, had a couple of really great seasons of cornerback one play. And I'm hoping we can get the same out of Patrick Peterson. I still think this team drafts cornerback high. And we'll talk about that in upcoming episodes, but he's a great mentor for one young Joey Porter Jr. That's all I'm going to say. Rather than that, go ahead, Gil.
No, keep going.
I was just going to, run on to some of the other names that are kind of hanging out there. They also re-signed safety DeMonte Casey at a very cheap deal. Like you mentioned, the safety market not really taking off. And he's going to be that guy that can wear the hats that Cam Sutton did, because Cam Sutton would play outside corner and base. He'd be your slot corner and nickel. He was also, on the, in the inside on dime too. So, Patrick Peterson's not a guy that you're going to be able to move around like that, but DeMonte Casey is. He's that guy that can be. He was the dime defender. He can be the nickel guy. But what I really think this team needs to do is go and bring back Terrell Edmunds, because I think he's a great strong safety. He's a great box safety. Again, really good against the run, and maybe he's kind of your answer for that pass coverage down linebacker. He's built enough, he's big enough that he can play linebacker, just like his brother Tremaine. But he's athletic, and he's going to be able to cover some guys better out of the box. So maybe that's your answer. You bring back Edmunds. You got Casey that can, go back to safety, and Edmunds is more of your cover guy, maybe on dime packages or on nickel downs, whatever the case may be. But I think Cole Holcomb is going to be your every down linebacker for that defense. But, and then we'll see. So that's kind of the moves that Pittsburgh has done. There's still a couple of pending free agents I'd like to see come back, bottom of the roster guys like Miles Boykin, great on special teams. Benny Snell, a perfectly fine number 3 running back. So still a couple pending moves. And really, I think, one of the other guys I'd like to see with a reunion is one Mr. Bud Dupree. I think he'd be great as that number 3 outside linebacker, kind of revive his career again. But it's more of a case of, is he okay with that, and is the money going to be right? So we'll see.
And he's going to go to New England. He was spotted in Boston.
Maybe.
Yeah.
No way, bro.
No, that was a meme, Camp. But anyways, Anyways, we will see. But what I'm seeing so far is Omar Khan and Andy Weidel. They want some football players on that team, some guys that just love hitting other dudes in the trenches. So I like to see that, and we'll see. Maybe let's get some more pieces for one young Kenny Pickett, Kenny Clutch, and we'll see where this team can go in his second year. But that's kind of my free agency wrap for Pittsburgh.
And we'll get more into this as we move on throughout the offseason with more draft talk later on. But you mentioned two different positions that you guys need to take early. As we sit at 1 week in the free agency, essentially, would you rather an offensive tackle or a corner first?
So, and we'll get into it on the draft episodes, but I got 6 guys that if they're on the board when the Steelers are on the clock, you are running that card to the podium. And the first 3 names on that list are cornerbacks. So I think cornerbacks number 1. If any one of Witherspoon, Gonzalez, or Porter Jr. falls, you take them. And then on the flip side, if Paris Johnson's there, if Broderick Jones is there, and maybe one other guy on the tackle, slipping my mind at the
Peter
moment.
Skoronski,
yep.
Northwestern guy.
And then, if the 3 corners are gone, you'll run one of those names up there. And if they're gone too, maybe you trade down a few spots. You kind of see how the board shakes out at that point. But, corner first, tackle second. In an ideal world, you get Joey Porter at 17, and then you get a guy like DeJuan Jones at 32. Because shout out to the Bears for shipping off that number 32 pick for Chase Claypool. That's going to really help this.
What about them Bears? All right. Drew, we have not heard from you much at all. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Gill. Just thinking about the Dallas Cowboys, America's team.
Stop.
Oh,
Literally
God.
the
All right.
This is
all right.
ridiculous. I'm
Tim.
tired of
All
it.
right.
I mean,
All right,
I don't know
everyone.
what to tell you.
All right. The other 2 guys we've all been kind and gentle for so far. So, Drew, we'll let you go on interrupted for as long as we can possibly hold on for.
This free agency for the Cowboys has been, you would think it's an uneventful free agency period. For the Cowboys, not a whole lot of big moves, not really any signings technically, just re-signings. But we did make a couple trades here I'll get into. But as far as, how this season stacks up to seasons in the past, it is night and day difference of normally we're not even awake during free agency. Jerry is asleep somewhere in his house, in his mansion. But
On a yacht.
He must be no. This is yacht Jerry this year. This is yacht Jerry makes stuff happen. He is on his yacht somewhere. He is making moves. He realized he's like a year or 2 away from death. So he's trying to make some stuff happen. Bro, this is serious. He is not the greatest GM in the world, as you may have guessed. But he is the owner, and he is wanting a ring before he passes. Another ring, might I add. So the biggest signings, well, like I said, re-signings. We haven't technically signed anyone new. Getting Donovan Wilson back was huge.
Hate that guy.
He's a freaking beast. He's the real hitman, unlike that fraud in Minnesota.
That's crazy.
Oh, jeez.
Just really tone setter.
Hold it together.
Basically,
Hold it together,
technically
Cam.
technically a safety. Basically plays linebacker, kind of like a Derwin James type dude, but a little bit more underrated.
Cheaper.
So, a lot cheaper. So great to have him back with that great trio of safeties we have. We got Leighton Vander Esch coming back, which is solid because that means we don't have to add as many linebackers in the draft or in free agency going forward. Because we had Vander Esch, and really our second linebacker, I guess you could say, was Anthony Barr, who was garbage.
Absolute
Cam,
garbage.
I'm sorry for not.
He's
listening
terrible.
to you.
No, garbage.
He's literally awful.
Good riddance.
So at least by keeping Leighton, we kind of have at least a base to go forward. He's great sideline to sideline, terrible up the middle, but it's whatever. What, Cam?
I'd like to add that when the Cowboys did sign Anthony Barr, I did tell you, good riddance. He's going to be terrible for you guys. He's not going to be anything.
You did say that. I didn't believe you. I thought he would at least be serviceable.
Cameron is right every so often, so let's.
Apparently,
it's not a lot, guys.
We should start a counter
Like
for every
once in a blue
time
moon.
Cameron's right, just so we know where he's at on the year, his record.
I would like that, honestly.
All right, we'll start now. So you were right about Anthony Barr. All right, we'll be back next year with what else Cam is right with.
That's how long it's going to take. Moving on, the other big one here. Let's see. Tony Pollard, not necessarily a re-sign. That's a franchise tag. I don't believe he's signed the tag yet, so there could technically be movement there somewhere if we take the tag back or he decides to not play on the tag for whatever reason.
Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
Hey,
Let's not have a situation like that.
Gill,
But
you know all about that.
hopefully he doesn't go to the
that
Jets,
one
so his career won't be ruined.
Easy.
Let's see. What was I going to say about Pollard? I am not too excited. I don't want to get ahead of myself on Pollard.
Let me jump in here, Drew. Does this mean
ahead.
Bijan Robinson is Cowboys are staring at him at whenever they pick 24, 26?
26. I would say he's probably not the front runner, but he is in the conversation, no doubt. I don't think I would like to see that happen, but that is certainly a Jerry pick if he's there. So
Keep him in Texas.
Let's just we could fall back. There was a lot of good running backs at the combine as far as speed and stuff goes. So there's always a running back that falls deep into the draft that just goes off. So
Spears, the Tulane kid, he's going to be good.
Oh, yeah. He had a really good Senior Bowl, didn't he?
Dominated USC.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll see what that kind of looks like. But obviously, Pollard will be the lead back as long as he can recover from his injury and hopefully keep the same explosiveness that he's been known for. And then we'll also have to see how well he holds up to getting the full non-divided carries. So there's not going to be any Zeke to come and save him. And there's not going to be any Zeke to come in on the – I'll get to that. I'll get to that.
I would like to add, with Tony Pollard and Zeke being complementary towards each other, on the Pat McAfee show, great show, by the way, they talked about how Tony Pollard was able to get more of the limelight because Zeke was taking more of the gritty, more, I guess, aggressive runs in the trenches.
And that's what everyone says,
right.
and that does have some truth. Obviously, Zeke got more of the goal line carries, got more of the, third and short, fourth and short carries, and he was excellent at that. But Pollard as well, he's not a, can't break tackles, can't run up the middle. He's actually terrific as far as yards after contact. So he's not like some small, tiny little, get pushed over at first sign of contact. He can take those up the middle runs for good yardage, like Zeke used to be able to do. But just the way that we gave him the carries early in his career, talking about Zeke, just the wheels kind of started to fall off there very tragically. But it had to happen as far as letting him walk. I really wish that we could have brought him in on a vet minimum. I wish he kind of would have just seen what the writing on the wall and accepted, just because him and Dak are like best buddies. So if he could just ride off into the sunset, yeah.
And their numbers is the Dallas area code, ain't that right?
It is, which is pretty sweet.
Tampa,
if you think about it.
Could that still happen though, where Zeke, he sees like maybe 2 weeks from now, he's not getting the money he wants, and Dallas, would they welcome him back on a cheap deal?
It's usually
Question
not
number
how
three.
those. It's usually not how those things work, even though they
A lot of
did
Yeah, it
times,
great.
kind of
no.
seems like it's already kind of, I don't want to say tarnished, but I don't think there's any real chance at a reunion. I mean, unless we just don't make any more moves at all and don't have any more plans, and the cap space is there to just, hey, let's whatever, do whatever with it. Bring Zeke back on at a vet minimum, whatever. Which I don't know exactly how all that would work, since if we bring back a guy like that with his contract, technically we're still paying him for like the next 2 years as well.
Yeah, that's why those things
That
don't
is
tend to
true.
work. It would have
So
happened initially with some sort of restructure or renegotiation. So yeah, I think Zeke's going to look for an opportunity elsewhere. He's not going to want to go be a backup. He's going to want to try to get some good carries somewhere else.
and that's what he said. That's what his
Tampa.
agent said. But I don't know. Rashad White's got that held down. If they wanted a Zeke type player, they just released him with Leonard Fournette. So
It's true.
Was that
they,
contract though?
Could he be a future Eagle with no more Miles Sanders around?
No, they're
Possibly.
running back
That'd be
there.
something.
That would be something.
possibly
Him and Sermon.
just like
'Cause
DeMarco.
Sanders-
That's what I just said.
Yes. Thank
Good
you
job.
for the input.
Your ears do work.
He could be an Eagle. I don't think he would. And I don't think the Eagles want him either. Now that's a team I could see drafting Bijan because they have 2 first-round picks.
That makes sense.
That
Please.
would be very tough.
So I'm looking
But,
forward to see Najee have a similar career arc.
Except for not as good.
Agree to disagree.
I mean, he just straight up is not as good as Zeke was in his
Well,
prime.
First
Also,
running
Zeke did
back
have a
in
legendary
Steelers.
offensive line.
Yeah, first running back in
Early on.
Steelers history ever to have over 1,000 yards rushing in his first 2 seasons.
I think that just goes to how bad.
In that franchise, yeah, I think so.
Still
I mean-
a bum. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
You're right.
He's just not as good as Zeke. I don't know what to tell you. Continuing on. What else do we have to talk about? Obviously, the 2 trades, with one happening today, which are fantastic trades and show a little bit of life from Jerry Jones. That's why we think he's on the yacht. I don't know why we say we, I say me. He's definitely on the yacht. Yacht Jerry. Trading a 5th for Stephon Gilmore.
Highway robbery.
That
A
was.
conditional 5th, let it be known.
Oh, and this next one's even better.
So just absolute steal for a guy who is old but can still get it done. He can still get the job done. He doesn't need to be the 1. He could be a 2. That's all we need him to be.
I mean,
we
he
don't
could
need him
still
to
be a 1. He just had a fantastic year with the Colts. He's like
Yeah.
him and Pat Pete. They still got it. I mean, they're not what they were 5 years ago, but they still got
Yeah.
it.
And
Got
for
a
a,
good 1
for
or
a
2 years.
conditional 5th, I mean, it's not like we're paying huge, money or picks for him. So
A lot of times, 5th
pick-
round picks don't even last in the NFL anyways. So
exactly. I
to
mean,
get a veteran
anything
that lasts 1 or 2 years.
past the 3rd, maybe 4th round is a guess on if
I mean,
they
you
end
are
up playing
paying him.
anything or not.
You are paying him $10 million a year, but
That's fine
that's fine.
for a proven player.
Absolutely.
Or as Gill just said, a 5th round pick, there's 50-50 odds are probably the upside, or probably the high side of probability for a 5th round player ending up being a starter. I mean, they might not even see the field at all. Anyways, fantastic trade. Brandon Cooks was rumored to us last year. Texans were asking like a 2nd or something crazy. So that's why it didn't work out last year, but this year makes perfect sense. Veteran presence. He still has some speed, even though he's old now. 6,000-yard seasons. Just a solid guy. He doesn't need to be the 1. He could be the 2. Gallup fits better at the 3. So, honestly, all he needs to do is be better than Noah Brown, and hopefully Gallup recovers a little bit more from his knee injury. If not, he's still the 3 anyways. So perfect trade. It's not a D-Hop, which would have been crazy with CD, but obviously you give up a little bit more capital for that. Still would have liked to see it happen because it sounds like maybe a 2 would have got that done. Plus a restructure of D-Hop's contract, which he said was on the table. He would have taken less money. So kind of tragic. We didn't get to see that happen. But like I said, Brandon Cooks is definitely solid as well, which kind of makes it seem like wide receiver might be off the table, especially at pick 26. Maybe later rounds we might go wide receiver, just kind of get some depth, see if you can hit on something. But that kind of seems off the table now. Going forward, what else do we have to cover here? That's all the re-signings. Got the trades. Dalton Schultz. Now that he could come back.
I can see it.
He thought he was going to get money in free agency. I think it has humbled him now. He realizes he's not getting the money he was asking for. It depends on the contract. If he comes back, great. He already has chemistry with Dak. He always finds a way to get open when Dak's in trouble. He obviously the offense might change a little bit with McCarthy taking over, but most of the stuff will probably be similar, if not the same. So it would be beneficial to have him back, as well as with our 2 tight ends currently on the roster they'll be sophomores going into the season, so still need a veteran guy.
What did you refer to Max Ferguson as again? Multiple times?
That's Baby Kelsey.
Gotcha.
Yes, that's Jake Ferguson.
Felt like that needed to be
Baby Kelsey.
Okay. All right. Anyways, how would you feel about the Hayden Hurst type contract for him? 3 years, $21.75 million, a little over $7 million a year.
That would be perfect, considering he was asking for 15 at the beginning, end of the season, beginning of free agency here. So,
yeah,
I don't think he
gets that.
I wish I had Hayden Hurst. But what were you saying there, Dylan?
I was just, that's been the biggest tight end, contract. I don't think he's going to get it 15.
Yeah.
I think he's going to get about what Hayden Hurst got.
No, that doesn't stop him from thinking that he was going to get it, but hopefully he learned that he's not. And if we bring him back, great. If we don't, see ya. You had a good run. You were solid. You're not, you're not Kelsey. You're not Kittle. You're not one of them dudes. You're just an average, not above average tight end. But that's all I can say about him.
Dalton Schultz wishes he was Pat Fryerman.
Probably.
Yeah.
Fryermuth is probably more athletic.
Many times he's let me down too many times in fantasy.
Don't let that get into the.
I'm just saying.
Keep moving along. Keep moving.
What else? Brought back Cooper Rush.
Oh yeah, that's the best signing of the.
Benvenucci.
Yeah.
Hey,
No, he's in the XFL.
That's my team.
Yes. Sea Dragons. Okay. What else? That's really about all the movement we made in free agency and trades, stuff like that. I'm sure there's probably one. CJ Goodwin, a long-time special teamer, best special teams guy that we have, brought him back, so that's good.
Drew, that Dak and Zach Martin did restructure their contracts to add more players.
Yes, they did. Thank you. Also Gallup as well, which is more interesting because we had an out with Gallup on his contract, and now after the restructuring, we don't have an out after this year. So that kind of signals that they obviously plan on keeping him longer, which I don't know that I would have after his performance this season. Like I said a little bit ago, though, hopefully he can have more time to recover and come back a little bit stronger this season, but we'll see. But we kind of tied ourselves to him for at least two, I don't know if it's in 2 or 3 seasons until we have the chance to move on, really, from Gallup. Obviously, Dak restructuring is good. The rumors were going to be a extension, but it worked out to be a restructure at this time. And then obviously Zach Martin is he's just the man. I mean, there's no other way to describe him. Tyron Smith as well also restructured. He has been on a team-friendly deal basically his whole career, which obviously he doesn't have to be. Recently with this one, we kind of had all the cards line up in our hand this time because he can't stay on the field really, but when he is on the field, he's just a dominant tackle. And when he was on the field, being a great tackle, he was still on team-friendly contracts, so he's just been a team player through his whole career. And I'm glad we got to bring him back. I hope he retires a Cowboy. I'm glad we didn't get rid of him. Who else? I think that covers the restructures. I don't know if we restructured anyone else.
I can't really think of anyone else.
Yeah,
Probably some smaller ones that we haven't seen.
Probably.
I think that's all of the moves we made there. Free agency, restructuring, trades. Obviously, coaching changes a little bit. I think McCarthy will be fine as a play caller. We'll see.
Bring back Turpin. That's my one question because I have not seen anything on that.
Well, he wasn't a free agent, so.
Well, what was his contract? Is what I'm asking. Like, are you going to bring him back with all the fumbles that he has had?
I mean, he didn't get cut, so.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes,
I
Turpin
believe
is
it's
still on
Gill's
the team.
turn.
I think it is Gill's turn. Bring us home, Gill. How are the Jets doing?
All right, so
The most
Aaron.
So we're not going to talk too much about Aaron Rodgers because
At the end of the show, we are.
Whatever. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But
Aaron
Rodgers is not going to be discussed in how I view the Jets offseason because it hasn't happened. So can't really grade that yet. The Jets last year, they really shocked me. They won 7 games. They were 5-2 at one point. They were one of the hottest teams in the NFL. They came out of the bye week. Zach Wilson looked like total dog poo and had to be benched after making remarks saying that he didn't feel he let down the defense. Mike White, his legendary status, forever a legend in Jets hands, or the hearts of the Jets fans, and hopefully he's going to get starts in Miami. He's going to probably start a couple games there in Miami for Tua, and I'm willing to bet he beats the Jets just because that's what happens with New York Jets quarterbacks. It's happened in the past. The beginning of the season and the end of the season, totally different stories for the Jets, and now the Jets are in a win-now mode where the owner, slightly impatient, but also the Jets, once the Sacramento Kings make the playoffs in the NBA this season, the Jets are going to have the longest playoff drought in Major League sports.
Oof.
It'll be a 12 or 13-year playoff drought.
There's
So
some knowledge for you.
Jets need to make the playoffs next year. They're not saying publicly, but there's a playoff mandate on that team. Joe Douglas has been with the team 4 or 5 years. He joined in like June of whatever year he originally came, so he didn't really have that first offseason. Since then, he's completely taken down the team, rebuilt it up. Robert Saleh, loved the hire at the time, still love Saleh, but if they don't make the playoffs with what they have around them, I can understand him possibly be letting go. I don't want that to happen. I, again, love Saleh. So they just need to make the playoffs. They have a really good young core as well, which makes this this is the time to win for the Jets. When all your best players are on rookie deals, and they're not getting that big money yet. You have Elijah Vera Tucker, who played 4 out of 5 positions on the offensive line last year and dominated every single one of them before going down. Breece Hall, who would have been Offensive Rookie of the Year had he not gotten injured. The Offensive Rookie of the Year, and Garrett Wilson. You say that's crap?
I think Garrett Wilson had that unlocked, and Olave should have been a close second, but go ahead.
Don't even get me started on Brock Purdy. I'm not doing it today.
No,
not Brock Purdy.
But
Get him out of here.
The way Breece Hall was playing, he was unstoppable. He was the offensive rookie of the year at that point of the year, and had he continued that, the Jets would have had the first and second offensive rookies of the year, in my opinion. But anyways, Jets had two really good offensive rookies. That's what I'm getting at. Sauce Gardner, the defensive rookie of the year, he really brought a spark to that defense. I didn't think the Jets needed a corner as much as they felt they needed a corner last offseason. They replaced both their starters, and I questioned it. Like, I thought we were fine, but they definitely changed how that overall defense looked. The Jets looked like a top 5 defense. Actually, they were a top 5 defense a year ago, last season. They lose a couple defensive tackles through free agency. Nathan Shepard, who none of you guys probably know, signed with the Saints. Good deal for him. Definitely see why the Jets didn't bring him back because, well, he was a third best defensive tackle at best. Sheldon Rankins leaving for the Texans kind of hurt. Again, I understand why the Jets didn't bring him on the contract he got with the Texans because Rankins is a little injury prone, but Jets are very thin at defensive tackle. Quentin Williams is going to get a big contract here soon, and especially with that defensive tackle market inflating the way it is, he's going to get a really big contract. Carl Lawson coming off of an Achilles last year. Thought he played fine. Would like to see a little bit more, but I think this year he does take a little bit of a leap. They tendered Bryce Huff, who is a situational pass rusher. My gosh, the dude. He's quick. His burst is phenomenal. So him, Jermaine Johnson off the edge. Jets are, I think they're fine at edge. They restructured John Franklin Myers. Linebacker, C.J. Mosley. They re-signed Quinn Williams' brother, Quincy Williams, which I like. He's an up-and-coming player. He just needs to get a little bit more consistent on the defensive level. Jets do still need a safety, though. They traded for Chuck Clark with the Ravens. I do really like that move because they only traded 7th-round pick next year. Not even this year, but next year's 7th-round pick for Chuck Clark, who
I would also like to back you up on that with Chuck Clark because he was a stud 2 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. He was a stud. And then the Ravens, they signed Marcus Williams, and then Kyle Hamilton fell to the Ravens. So Chuck Clark just kind of fell in that pecking order. But I think Chuck Clark, Jordan Whitehead, they can be a good safety duo, but I think they still need to go after another safety. That's just very thin back there. That was a kind of weak point defensively. And, I mean, the Jets are going to be playing Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle twice a year. You got to fix up the safeties because that's where the Dolphins are going to try attacking you because they can't get anything on Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed. They couldn't get jack squat on them last year. So they'll try attacking the safeties more, so they got to fix that up. Offensively, I don't mind the Allen Lazard signing. It was a 4-year, $44 million contract with an out after 2 years, so really the final 2 years don't count as much. I don't mind it. Bigger body guy. His contract just essentially replaces Corey Davis, and a lot of people love Corey Davis. I like the Corey Davis signing at the time, but Corey Davis has just not been on the field. He's been inconsistent with injuries, and when he does get on the field, he's good for one bad drop and or one bad penalty a game, which has cost the Jets on multiple occasions. So essentially swapping that money with Lazard and Davis, because Davis will get let go. It's just I think he's going to be part of that Aaron Rodgers trade, which is why it hasn't happened yet. But Lazard, I don't mind him coming in. Younger guy, bigger body. He blocks really well. And assuming Rodgers comes in, that's a target he already is familiar with. And tag him up with Garrett Wilson, who is a stud. And then Elijah Moore, he'll play more slot this year. They'll be fine weapon-wise. I wouldn't mind just going after another wide receiver. They've been linked to Odell Beckham Jr. a lot. If they get him, watch out. Because I think that offense for the New York Jets is going to be really fun to watch. And, I mean, on the surface, it doesn't look like the Jets need another wide receiver. But the Jets are one Garrett Wilson injury away from playing an XFL starter wide receiver. They don't have anyone else. Denzel Mims has just been disappointing. He looked fine in spot his rookie year. Since then, he fell out of favor with the coaching staff his sophomore year. This past year, requested a trade, wasn't granted it, and he looked okay, but he's still not caught a touchdown pass in the NFL in a regular season game. He caught one in a preseason game against the Giants, I think. Still waiting for that regular season touchdown pass. But Denzel Mims, been pretty disappointing. Jets need help at wide receiver. It doesn't have to be an Odell Beckham Jr., but they do need some sort of level of help there at wide receiver, even after Allen Lazard. But offensively, need to shore up the offensive line. They need a center. Their starting center last year still on the market, Connor McGovern. They brought in some backups, Wes Schweitzer from some offensive guard from the Commander, Schweitzer.
Okay.
He's a backup. He's essentially going to replace
sounds like
Nate Herbig.
Sounds like an offensive lineman.
He does. That's one heck of an offensive lineman name. But we lost Nate Herbig to the Steelers. Schweitzer pretty much comes in to fill in that hole. And then we had another offensive lineman, too, that will replace he is another backup. I don't have the name in front of me right now. We need offensive tackle help. Mekhi Becton has played one game in the last 2 years, and he didn't even finish that full game. He was injured opening day against the Carolina Panthers. He played 3 quarters, and then since then, he has not played an NFL regular season game. Can't really count on him. Max Mitchell, we drafted in the 4th round last year, 4th, 5th round. We drafted him late last year. He plays fine at the offensive tackle, filling in for George Fant until he got hurt. On the left side, it's Dwayne Brown, who played really well. He was playing, or his play diminished down the stretch, and he's approaching 40. He is 40 years old, but he was also playing with a shoulder injury throughout the season. He got surgery done after the year, so he might be fine on the left side. But I think Jets, assuming they keep that 13th overall pick, they're going to offensive tackle with that pick. And the way free agency's played out, with some of the teams ahead of them going after tackles, the Titans signed a tackle, Raiders, I believe, signed a tackle. So some of those teams that are ahead of them probably won't take tackle, which could push down my dream scenario is Paris Johnson Jr. at tackle. So offensive line, definitely need help. Center's the big position. Brian Costello of the New York Times for the New York Jets, one of their beat writers, tweeted out a couple hours ago that they were interested in Ben Jones, which I know Cam had mentioned as a prospect for the Vikings. The Jets have Titans offensive line coach from last year, so Keith Carter. So that could be a connection there, and then possibly drafting a center day 2 or day 3. That's kind of where the Jets need to. I don't mind the Jets offseason so far. If I had to grade them, I'd probably give them a C. There hasn't been many splash signings. They still have some holes. They're thin, very thin at defensive
How much
tackle.
cap space do you have?
Really don't know at the moment, to be honest. And
cap
space, I think we're fine with cap space. We could go after a safety.
According to Over the Cap, the Jets have $11 in cap space.
$11.
That's all right. $11 million. That's my bad.
Here's $11.
I was going to say, I don't know.
So I think the Jets could go after. I've seen a lot of rumors about C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I don't think we get that level of safety, but I could see like a trade maybe for Kevin Byard, who are apparently requested a trade from the Titans. They need a safety. They need some depth at wide receiver. There's going to be some other moves that the Jets make, and I think a lot of it, they're just waiting for the Aaron Rodgers potential trade to unfold. But also, one of my favorite moves that the Jets have made, punter. So, punter, Braden Mann for the New York Jets, drafted a couple of years ago. His tackle on a kick return or a punt return prevented the Jets from putting themselves in a spot to potentially draft Trevor Lawrence. So I'll be pretty pleased to see Braden Mann go after bringing back Thomas Morstead. Braden Mann was injured, not this past year, but 2 years ago, Zach Wilson's rookie year. And he was injured. Thomas Morstead came back in his place, punted for him for a couple times, and Morstead looked really good for the Jets. But they wanted to continue rolling with Mann, so they kept Mann on, let Morstead go. Morstead went to the Dolphins, had a good year last year. Morstead tweeted himself yesterday because apparently none of the beat writers for the Jets know how to break news. So the punter himself, Thomas Morstead, announced that he's signing with the Jets. Love that move because the Jets put themselves in positions multiple times with put themselves in bad spots. Now the offense couldn't move, but when you're a punter, you should know how to punt right. And punter, that's why not the entire reason we lost to the Patriots the second time, but we lost on a punt return for a touchdown because Braden Mann kicked the line drive to the middle of the field. So Thomas Morstead coming in, I think that's going to be huge, especially when we're probably not going to punt as much with Aaron Rodgers potentially a quarterback, but when we do punt, it'll be nice to have a reliable veteran out there. So Thomas Morstead might be crazy, but that's one of my favorite moves that the Jets have made so far this offseason. Not that they've made many, but it's been a slow offseason. I do expect it to start picking up here as we hit that like second, third tier of free agents. Yeah, I think we've all discussed our teams so far. Anyone else have anything to add before we move on?
No. I think we should just do rapid fire though, kind of, for our next segment.
Yep. Let's rapid fire.
Your one winner and your one loser. One you like, one you don't like of free agency. Everybody kind of hits their highlights, and we wrap up today's podcast.
Yeah, because we're already over an hour or something like that, it seems like. So let's definitely wrap this up. Cam, you're up.
That really hurts me. First of all, I need to bring up a kind of point between the boys here. Gill, I'd like to issue a formal apology for suggesting to the boys to get a Zach Wilson jersey bought for you. I did not know he was going to be this bad. I apologize.
I would have bought it myself.
It's tough. That's tough.
Oh, sorry about that. By the way, Dylan, Tony Pollard, Cam Sutton, Hargrave. Those are my top 3 signings. Tony Pollard, Vikings killer. Cam Sutton, very big piece for the Steelers who could potentially, I would say he's on a prove-it deal, if you would agree, because now he's on a different environment.
No. 3 years, $33 million isn't really you got to prove anything, in my opinion.
I'm saying as a player, because obviously the Steelers defense has been very, very good over the last couple of years, and I think he could or could not be a product of that. But Cam Sutton, very good pickup for the Lions, although I hate it. Hargrave, 2 years, going to the 49ers, fills that DeForest Buckner spot. My one top hated signing with an honorable mention to David Montgomery to Lions, because that doesn't make any fucking sense. Orlando Brown.
Hey,
Whoa!
This is a family show. This is a family show.
I don't understand that. Bring back Jamal. He's the heart and soul of that team. Anyways, so we're gonna go to Orlando Brown. This is the biggest talking point of free agency, it seems. I'm gonna go in on this one. So earlier today, the Chiefs came out and said
what happened to rapid fire?
He was offered $139 million for 5 years for $27.8 million a year, and he ended up taking someone I can't find my notes. Son of a bitch.
4 years, $64.092 million.
Yes. So he took massive pay cut.
He dropped the ball, or
he fumbled. He fumbled.
Bad.
It's up there with Le'Veon Bell with the biggest fumbled bag of free agency. So I'm going to say
up there.
Orlando Brown is my worst free agency signing because now the Bengals starter wants out, Jonah Williams.
Nice. All right, I'll jump in here. I'm going to do one of each. So my winner of a free agent signing, I'm going to go to New England and say the Patriots signing Juju Smith-Schuster, 3 years, $33 million. I think he's going to be really good in their system, and he came in at a good price, only $11 million a year. And I think Bill Belichick's just going to love this dude, and he's going to block his tail off. And then he's, an actual receiver that Mac Jones is going to be able to throw to. So I think that was a really good signing for them on their system. And then, I think a popular choice here for the L is going to be Danny Dimes, but I'm going to go a different direction. What?
Go ahead. No, I was very happy with the Danny Dimes, but you're going in a different direction.
I'm going to go a different direction in case, our NFC East man Drew wants to talk about it. But I'm going to go down to New Orleans, where the Saints signed a very similar contract for a below-average quarterback in Derek Carr, 4 years, $150 million. The Saints are the Saints are so afraid to be bad that they're forever going to be just barely okay. Every year it's
purgatory.
every year they massage the cap to try to be, barely good enough. And they're just afraid to be bad. They need to be bad to get the answer for that team.
They're still operating like they have Drew Brees.
Yeah, and 4 years of Derek Carr at a whole bunch of money per year. And I don't even know how they're managing to fit it in the cap. I still haven't figured that one out yet. On a
Probably
team,
got like a cap number of like $1 million.
Yeah, on a team that's just not that good, in my opinion. Even though the NFC South is wide open, I just think they need to bite the bullet, hit reset. Be bad, get a top 10 pick, get a QB of the future, and let's flip this thing. They also gave Jameis Winston $8 million for 1 year, so I don't know what the whole deal there is.
That's new.
$4 million. It's a 1-year deal, $4 million guarantees, max value of $8 million.
So it's the up to deal. Okay, that's fine for a backup quarterback. So it's what Mitch Trubisky's about to be. So, anyways, yeah, Derek Carr. Dude cannot play in bad weather, so at least he's playing in the dome. But that was my two for this.
Don't get Drew started on domes.
Anyways,
please.
Drew,
Makes a player better.
Anyways, that's a future podcast episode.
Hargrave to the Niners is the best. Makes it already great team even better. They're just stacked. They're getting even more stacked. Only thing holding them back is the quarterback position, but maybe Lance goes crazy this year.
Sam Darnold. Is Sam Darnold better than Brock Purdy? Probably.
No.
Drew, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Do you think Hargrave replaces the Buckner trade that they lost 2 years ago?
Maybe.
I think Buckner is maybe better.
Hargrave was on the Steelers for his rookie deal. He's good. He's not DeForest Buckner good. That's my thoughts.
Gotcha.
But who do the Niners have in there? Who do they have in there last season? I don't even remember.
It's still Aaron
Armstead.
Yeah,
Armstead.
all I remember is a video of him getting
Kinlaw.
tossed, and I think it was Kinlaw. No, maybe it wasn't Kinlaw. Anyways, one of them had a video of them getting tossed to the freaking bleachers by the Eagles' offensive line. So they needed something to throw in there and make that better. Anyways, the worst. I'm going to touch on two here real quick. First, Danny Dimes. Absolutely hilarious that he got paid that much money. He's so bad. The Giants have been making good moves. Other than that is awful. And I'm glad they made it.
Scared of not having a QB that's what they did.
Yes. I mean,
pretty much.
Literally anything else would have been better. Anyways, Jimmy G to the Raiders.
Ooh.
As just asking the Raiders, what is the plan? What are you doing?
They swapped out Derek Carr for Derek Carr.
Exactly. Maybe he's a more safe Derek Carr, but he's still
more injury prone
at best. More injury prone, maybe.
I mean, they still may draft Will Levis, though. That's the thing. They may draft Will Levis.
I could see them drafting a quarterback.
Let Jimmy G play a year, and this could happen.
They still could, yep. And that makes sense, but it just seems like their recent moves, get rid of Derek Carr, bring in Jimmy G, get rid of Darren Waller. It's what? Yeah, I know. It's what is the direction? What is the
Jacoby
goal?
Myers?
No defensive additions?
Are you getting worse? Are you getting better? Are you trying to stay in the middle?
Purgatory.
Where do you go forward from where they're at? So
Jimmy G and Kirk Cousins, the purgatory QBs.
Okay, you just take a step back. Take a step back from Kirk Cousins. He's fine. He does what he needs to do. JJ's best receiver in the NFL because of Kirk Cousins.
No. Justin Jefferson is arguably the best receiver in the NFL because of Justin Jefferson. He would,
but Kirk Cousins can throw the ball.
Okay, and that's. Good
I
job.
agree with Justin Jefferson would be the best receiver in the NFL, but I think Kirk skyrockets his stats.
This is for the future.
I think Justin Jefferson skyrockets Kirk Cousins' stats.
This is for the future, boys. Let's move on. Yeah, I like that. Let's move on. Wrap it up
All
here.
right.
Gill, what's your winners and
All right.
losers?
So I'm going to go with a re-signing. I'm going to go with Larry Tunsil. Re-signing 3 years, $75 million with the Texans. He's securing the bag. And there was a moment there where it seemed like he was going to get traded. He was he was involved in trade talks at the deadline.
To the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then the Chiefs, right before they signed Jawan Taylor, were involved in trade talks with him again to possibly get Laramie Tunsil this last week. They instead went with Jawan Taylor. Laramie Tunsil being there for Houston is love that for him because he's getting a boatload of money once again. He's continuing to get money. I think he negotiates his own contracts too. This is his second big one. But it also helps whoever is going to be there to be their rookie quarterback because they're going to draft a quarterback number 2 overall to be
Young.
C.J. Stroud or
Bryce Young.
More than likely.
Confirmed.
And with Bryce Young's size, he's going to need big bodies up front, 100%.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to throw to the left side of the field, though, because he can't get it over Laramie Tunsil's head.
Probably not, but hey, at least you got someone blocking your blind side. Having Laramie Tunsil up there, being your anchor, is going to be huge for them. And knowing that he's going to be there for the next 3 years, you don't have to worry about trade talks, at least for this year. You get one more year, one more offseason where Laramie Tunsil is not involved in a trade talk because he got this extension. So that's huge. I also really like, as much as we're bashing Danny Dimes, I did like one of the acquisitions the Giants got. Trading a third-round pick for Darren Waller, I thought that was robbery.
Steal.
Being able to get a stud tight end, one of the top 5 tight ends in the league, for a third-round pick, that's awesome. Now, the rest of the moves the Giants have made at wide receiver, they're just bringing back their own guys, which you're comfortable with, whatever. But Danny Dimes, I don't think any of us here think he's a future for the Giants. He's just
he is now.
right now.
It may not be a good future, but he's the future.
May not be. But
Let me add in, Cody Bellinger is also with the Giants, and he was an All-Pro tight end as a rookie. So that duo might be a problem in the NFC East.
But Darren Waller, I love that trade for the Giants.
NFC
He did it for the Raiders, but love that Waller trade for the Giants.
You got lucky this year.
Some of the things I did not like. Overall, how much was the Chicago Bears offseason heading into this year hyped? They were going to have this big offseason. They had the most money. Yeah, they did go after DJ Moore. They went after DJ Moore. They got him. But what else have they really done that stood up?
Exactly.
Jermaine Edmonds, linebacker, he's okay. TJ Edwards, the weak point of the Eagles' defense last year was their linebacking core, and the Bears just overpaid for a free agent linebacker that the Eagles were fine with letting go.
Should have just paid Roquan Smith.
They should have just paid Roquan Smith. Yes, exactly. What they do to fix up their offensive line? They went after Mike McGlinchey. They were outbid by Denver. So you didn't fix offensive tackle, though McGlinchey probably wouldn't have been the answer anyways. They did sign guard Nate Davis, but you still have holes all over that offensive line. So really, I've been uninspired, unimpressed with the Bears offseason overall. The one big move that they made was trading out of that first overall pick, and I love DJ Moore. Love DJ Moore for what he's going to do for Justin Fields. But Justin Fields needs more around him. It can't just be Justin Fields and DJ Moore every single play. And they need more help. They did bring in Robert Tonyan to be a tight end right next to Cole Kmet. That'll probably be an okay duo at tight end, but I'm still very uninspired with what the Bears have done this offseason. It was very hyped. They were going to have this awesome offseason. They had all this draft pick, or they had all this capital, all this money. I've come away after the first week uninspired by what the Bears have done. I also think a loser after this week is the New England Patriots, and that puts a whole new level of joy into my heart to say that the New England Patriots are probably going to finish this season last in the division, assuming Aaron Rodgers gets traded to the New York Jets. Because what have the Patriots done? Yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster was a fine signing. They signed tight end Mike Gesicki. Okay, he's all right, but he didn't have a great season last year with the Miami Dolphins. There's a reason the Dolphins were willing to let him go. And the rest of the division just keeps getting better. The New York Jets.
Got rid of Jonnu.
They got rid of Jonnu Smith to get Mike Gesicki, but Jonnu Smith was kind of a poor signing. They overpaid for him. That was a bad signing. They still have Hunter Henry at tight end. Running back, they signed James Robinson. Whoop-de-doo. The Jets were willing to let him go after trading a fifth-round pick for him because Robinson, outside the Buffalo Bills game, didn't really do much for the Jets down the stretch when they really needed running back play. They just couldn't get much for James Robinson. They did also sign offensive tackle Riley Reef. Again, whoop-de-doo. That's okay. But when the rest of your division is getting better, the New York Jets, more than likely, 98% sure, 99.5% sure, actually, they're going to get Aaron Rodgers. That's going to be probably the second best quarterback in the division. The Miami Dolphins don't really care for Tua, but that team is really good and still getting better. They just traded for Jalen Ramsey. They are an overall better team than they were last week. So what the Patriots are doing this offseason is a big L for them. They're just taking L. So if I'm a New England Patriots fan, I'm very scared, very worried. Now, if they are able to get a DeAndre Hopkins, that could change things up. I don't see Hopkins going to New England, seeing as the offensive coordinator there in New England is the one that shipped him out of Houston to begin with. So I don't really see that happening. I think Patriots are taking the L, and I think the Bears are taking the L this offseason. So those are my two losers. I just went with teams overall instead of players.
Let me add with the Bears
that
as
approach.
an NFC North advocate, and I would love to see them get two teams into the playoffs every single year. With David Montgomery gone, who's going to get you those guaranteed 3 or 4 yards? Because
Oh, that's
Khalil
another
Herbert
thing.
is not that guy. He's not that guy.
No. I really thought they'd go after Jamal Williams. He ended up signing with the Saints instead. Now,
Zeke.
maybe that's where
Shut up.
That'd be something. I thought Miles Sanders, but Miles Sanders went to Carolina. Though I saw an edit of him in the Carolina Panthers uniform. He just – the quote tweet on it was, why does he look less athletic in a Carolina Panthers uniform? He just does not look as good. It'll be interesting to see how he works out there in Carolina. But the Bears, just uninspiring. And I think
I love that.
we're going to do final notes, final remarks before we wrap it up here.
Yeah, no, I just got one, and then I'd send it back to you, Gill, to bring us home. But I think the Bears wide receivers aren't actually that bad. You got DJ Moore as your number one, Darnell Mooney is a good number two, and Chase Claypool is a good number three. So that's not too bad. That's all
Darnell
I got.
Mooney is a great number 2. Drew, do you have anything before I go?
Before you go, where are you going?
I'm going back to Danny Dimes.
Oh,
Wrap it up. Wrap it up here, fellas.
the Cowboys are the best. The Vikings are the worst.
All right.
Sure.
All right.
Okay.
I think. All right.
Whatever. Danny Dimes getting 40 a year. What does that put Lamar's price at? Is he 45? Is he 50 because he's way better than Danny Dimes? You never know. That's all I have to add.
Maybe.
Yeah, Lamar's going to secure the bag from somebody. He's got to at this point. I think right now with Lamar, no one wants to do the Ravens' dirty work because you go out there. All right, say the Falcons want to go get Lamar Jackson. They negotiate a contract with Lamar, and then for 5 days, you have no idea if Lamar's coming to your team or not, so you're strapped. You don't know if you have, say you spend $50 million on him per year. You don't know what you have and do not have to work with for 5 days before the Ravens say we're going to match it or not. And then the Ravens will probably end up matching it anyways. So I understand why Lamar is still out there and has not signed or has not even spoken with the team as far as where, because why someone want to do the Ravens' dirty work.
Aaron Rodgers is the first domino to fall.
Wasn't Derek Carr officially the first domino?
Maybe. All right, bring us
Yes.
home, Gill. Bring us home.
All right. I thought someone was going to ask me about Aaron Rodgers and trade compensation.
Next
I
week.
was going to do that in the
Next
next
week?
episode.
Next week.
All right. If the Aaron Rodgers trade does not go through by next week, we'll talk about that next week. So let's wrap it up here on the first episode of Party Chat Sports. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope you continue to follow us, especially throughout this offseason. We'll go deep into draft talk. That's one area where a lot of us really enjoy is draft season. So we'll definitely get into that these next couple of weeks. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you're staying tuned and all off season long. Until next time, thank you. Have a great rest of your day.